Thanks for joining me. It's the Elysabeth Alfano Show, live today on WCGO. Of course, if you cannot belly up to the dial and go to 1590 AM and 95.9 FM on WCGO in Chicago, you can always say, "Hey Alexa, play WCGO." I'll be here every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central. And of course, you can always go to WCGORadio.com and our Facebook page. But I want to see you every Sunday here at 3 p.m. because the Elysabeth Alfano Show is the first and only plant-based radio show in the nation. Okay, so before I get to my very fab guest today, she really is a Wonder Woman of plant-based deli meats. I'm not kidding. I want to break down some of the week's highlights because it's been another incredible week for plant-based news. So General Mills cereal has invested, along with Greenleaf Foods and Clear Crop Capital, in plant-based tuna. So Good Catch Tuna, which is run by Derek Charno and Chad. Derek actually is the chef at Tesco in London. The two of them have Wicked Healthy Food blog. They are the creators behind Good Catch Tuna, which is basically made out of chickpeas. What's fascinating to me is that a company that has nothing to do with seafood sees the market demand for a plant-based item. Seafood itself is on the rise. That demand is really coming from Asia, but obviously for environmental reasons and health reasons as well, we can talk about that, we need a new alternative. So I think it's very exciting. General Mills is into that. Speaking of new things, JBS, which is the largest meat producer in Brazil, that makes them the second largest beef producer in the world, next to the United States. They have a new plant-based innovation lab. And why I think this is so exciting is because I was at the Good Food Institute conference in September, and a director of JBS said that they weren't getting into plant-based. Now, less than 6 months later, you see that this is where they want to focus their energies. I'm quoting one of the directors from Syria Alimentos, which is a division of JBS. Juanita Karleski says, "The world is constantly changing. Today there's a new way for everything, and with food it's no different. The search for vegetable proteins is a reality, and we want to be leaders in that segment." Now, this couldn't come fast enough because a UN-backed organization has just suggested to investors around the world that they better get prepared for a plant-based shift. Because if you're changing to plant-based items, it's not just the end product, it's also the banking that supports that system, the farming agriculture that supports that. So, you're sort of shifting the entire domino effect. And this also comes at a good time to sort of get the world thinking about this, as Veg News reports that Robert Goodland and Jeff Anhang are the co-authors of Livestock and Climate Change, and that indeed animal agriculture is 51% the majority impact of the climate crisis. So you can find all these links on my show page, and I don't want to go into any further detail because I do have a rock star guest today, but I'll leave you with one bit of fun news. Hollywood Reporter says that, okay, we had plant-based food at the Golden Globes, and then of course we had it at the Critics' Choice, and now WME, William Morris Endeavor, is throwing a huge party for Joaquin Phoenix, who is so awesome. He's not just plant-based, he's also very vegan, doesn't wear leather, doesn't wear wool. He's quite outspoken. And I have to say, I love him for this. WME is throwing the first pre-Oscar party, and it's all plant-based in honor really of Joaquin, which I think is pretty awesome. So apparently in Hollywood, if you want to be a cool kid on the block, you're going plant-based. But I have another cool kid on the block who is with me today. I do say really she is the Wonder Woman of plant-based deli meats. She took Shark Tank by storm, and I want to get the entire whole story. Jenny Goldfarb, you might know her as Mrs. Goldfarb, the queen of plant-based corned beef, is here with me. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my great pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, Elizabeth.
Yes, okay. So let's get into it. I have so many questions for you. I mean no disrespect when I say I was talking to you. You were doing food videos on YouTube. Very lovely videos. I love them. I learned a lot about them. Count Your Colors. They get, 300, 500, 2,000 views. Yeah. I blink and you've changed your focus and you're on Shark Tank.
That's right.
I guess, okay, so let's break this down because I think this is inspirational for a lot of people who maybe have plant-based dreams of a plant-based company. So
Totally.
I looked at your background. You don't have a business degree, do you?
I have an undergraduate business degree, which is basically like you learn how to give over your business card.
Yes,
so no.
right, yes. You learned to network.
That's right.
You learned to show up at cocktail parties.
right.
Oh, college. You're so fun.
You learn how to do laundry, basically.
So you are a mother of three. You're wildly busy. You don't really technically have a business background.
Yeah.
And take us, because basically, who the heck are you is what I'm asking. Like,
Seriously.
take us to how this happened.
I'm asking myself the same thing. So I grew up on the standard American diet, not having a tremendous business background, not having a culinary background. After college, I was seeking out some spirituality. I lived a year in Israel, and I guess having to do with some of that spirituality gave me a certain sensitivity. And so when I started seeing videos of everyday factory farming, of organic farming, of grass-fed farming, of quote-unquote happy farms, I was destroyed by seeing what I realized that I was complicit in contributing to for so many years of my life. And I was set on making a change. And when I shared the idea with my very meat and potatoes husband that we were going to initially just go vegetarian, he was not on board. And so I was tasked with this mission to create really delicious food in a really short amount of time from the produce and grains aisle, with which I had no former background in preparing food from. And so I started purchasing all sorts of vegetarian cookbooks, and at the same time I saw more videos, and I started learning about egg farming and dairy farming, and I went back to my husband and my 2 young toddlers and said, now we're going vegan, and they were even more dismayed. And so it was a bit of a learning process, learning how to cook, but I had to learn fast on the job if I wanted to hold by my morals, and I did it. And there were a lot of very lousy meals along the way. But after a while, the food got better, and every now and then there was something quite good, and every now and then there was something exceptionally, amazingly delicious.
Yeah, that's a beautiful day in the kitchen, isn't
Yes.
it? When you, because I also love to cook. So, of course, if you feel like dabbling in the kitchen, go to Count Your Colors or my website, ElysabethAlfano.com. It's like magic.
It's magic.
When it comes together and it's really good and it's new, it's something you've created there new, it does feel like, oh my gosh, there's stardust here.
Totally. Beautifully put. So every now and then I had these fabulous meals that came out of the kitchen, and I said to my husband, I want to really share this with the world. And so I created this very sweet website, CountYourColors.com, where each week we put out a new video recipe. And I was not becoming a YouTube star. I was not getting any big distribution deals, but I was doing it because I felt like it was important, sort of holy work almost, to show the average mom, person, busy working human that how doable and delicious vegan could be. And so for this endeavor, I needed to come up with a new recipe, and I was pushing myself to get more creative and come up with stuff that really hadn't been done before. And so I realized after a while that there were so many good burgers in the vegan world, and there were so many ways to make like actual veggies yummy and turn nuts into milks and cheeses and all this. But I grew up initially as a young one in New York, and I have very like New York Jewish parents. And so we had a lot of deli as a kid, corned beef, pastrami, and what had occurred to me was even though there were a lot of burgers and a lot of good veggies, I couldn't get any good vegan corned beef or pastrami. And so I set out to recreate it, and I thought it was just going to be another recipe I was going to share on my blog.
Oh my gosh, so you had no ambition beyond the blog.
That was what I was doing, and so I was just looking to make another interesting recipe for my viewers. But what wound up happening was I was getting a lot of pushback from certain folks in my life about taking on this diet. Particularly my in-laws thought we were raising our kids like crazy hippies, and other friends thought we were, kind of going off the deep end. And, I realized after time that, it really challenges people when you tell them that you're vegan, because more than any other diet, it makes them feel like they're complicit for, being a part of consuming, a lot of, hurt and pain and suffering in the world, and which they truly are. But, we don't mean it to be threatening, but it comes off that way because they say, well, if you're doing it for all these righteous purposes, what am I up to? And anyhow, so I understand why I got the pushback, but I got the pushback no less. And so when they tasted this corned beef, which I earnestly thought I was just going to share on my video blog, they said, "This is so good. This tastes just like real corned beef. I love this."
I love this. When you have nailed your in-laws,
Right.
then you know you're onto something.
Totally. Like, that was it. It was like mic drop. I was like, just, that was like that was like one of the biggest moments in the whole business, really. So they were like, "You should make a business out of this." I said, "I don't know anything about the food business, nothing at all." And so, but it left me with this thought that maybe I'm onto, maybe there could be something here. Maybe I should try to see if I could make something of this. And so it was a very grassroots story. So what happened, you want me to just delve?
Well, so let me ask
Let's
you
go.
a little bit, because I know we are going to come up on break here, but
Yeah.
so you decide to make this a business, and I think a lot of people think, "Oh, hey, I'm onto a good business idea," but kind of shortly, because we're about to head to break, what did you put in place to really make it a business?
A lot of gumption and grit and not caring if I was going to fail, because failing just meant going back to my video blog, which I thought was my main endeavor anyway.
Okay.
In short,
Yes. So basically not looking back. But still, how did you know what to do? I mean,
I didn't know what to do. I reached out to a couple folks that I knew in the vegan space, and I said to them, "I'm thinking about trying to bring a product to market. Do you know anyone who I should meet?"
oh,
And someone knew someone
Oh, I
who
love
knew
it.
a woman who had a little tiny commercial kitchen, who this woman is now one of my closest friends, and she had a little vegan business herself, and I drove out a half hour in the rain to meet her one day less than a year ago. Should we go to a commercial?
this is amazing. When we get back from break, it's the Elysabeth Alfano Show on WCGO. We are going to talk more with Mrs. Goldfarb about how the heck you start a plant-based business. Keep it locked. Oh, hey, welcome back to the Elysabeth Alfano Show, live here on WCGO, the only plant-based radio show in the nation. I'm with Mrs. Goldfarb, and she's explaining to us how she went from a little bit of corned beef in your kitchen, making a plant-based corned beef, to scaling up to Shark Tank. How did that happen?
And even beyond Shark Tank, we're now selling like in the thousands of pounds. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I started off making these 2.5 pound looking salami logs in my little kitchen here. And then I realized I wanted to just try to see if it could have legs, if I could share it with a few more folks than my own family. And so I asked friends of friends. This is such an important part in trying to get out there. Like, who do you know? Who could I talk to? Someone's husband, maybe you may be able to have lunch with. And then you never know what magic can come. So I drove in the rain 40 minutes out to a part of town I never head to less than a year ago to meet some woman who had her own vegan food business. And we're sitting there chatting, and I had no idea where the conversation could even go. And at the end of it, she said, "We have a little kitchen here that you could rent for $25 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
And you can make it here." And the kitchen was, I mean, maybe smaller than my home kitchen, but the point is that it was a commercial kitchen, which means you could then sell it to the world. And so from that moment on, I was in commerce.
Yes, but then you have to scale up. So this is one of the common problems with businesses. For example, Impossible
course.
Foods has that problem. They can't scale up fast enough to really work with McDonald's. And I know you're now in Whole Foods. You're going to work your way to McDonald's, I'm sure. Or Arby's needs you desperately, of course.
Yes.
So, you know, when you go on something like Shark Tank and now you're selling thousands of pounds, how did that happen that you were able to scale up?
Well, it started off, we're in this tiny commercial kitchen. I was only cooking 12 pieces at a time. So we're nowhere close to scaling up at that point. But I still had to see if anyone wanted it. So I wasn't ready to scale up quite yet. So what I did was I took those little 12 little logs, and I would slice them and prepare them in little half sandwiches, and I would drive them all the way across town to meet one little deli owner to say, "Taste this, see what you think." And many, many times they said to me, "It's delicious. People are asking for this. We need something like this on the menu."
Yes, I just want to jump in here.
Yeah.
We really do need, so I'm so grateful because we really do need something like this on the menu, and I will tell you why. We all, of course, love Dr. Greger, but if you have not seen Dr. Greger speak to the committee that is advising the USDA on the new dietary food guidelines, which do come out in 2020, Dr. Greger says in a way that no one else can, you know, when you send your kid off to school with a bologna sandwich, this is not hyperbole, you're sending them off with cancer, because the World Health Organization has said processed meats, sausage, bacon, bologna, salami, these all cause cancer. They're class 1 carcinogenic. at the same level that secondhand smoke is. So you wouldn't put your kid in an airplane with everybody smoking, and you wouldn't send them off with, a bologna sandwich. So here's where we need plant-based deli sandwiches, and I hope that you're going to tell me that you're doing more than corned beef.
We're going to start working on other iterations, absolutely.
Can you say what it is or not quite yet?
Our next iteration is likely to be a hot dog, but we have more coming too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would think, so now let's get to Shark Tank. I would
Yeah.
think you have investors. Oh, hey, one of them might be Marc Cuban.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you get on Shark Tank, and then what the heck was that like?
Well, so we started selling to the local delis, and I was really blown away when we started seeing reorders, and then we got some of the biggest delis in LA to put us front and center on their permanent menus. That was tremendous. And then we got a commitment from Whole Foods to take us on, and then I went and filled in a 30-second web application. If you have a cool business idea, it takes 30 seconds to just get the ball out there. And I was driving home from the Netflix offices because we wanted to sell on a couple of movie studios, and we're at Netflix and Fox to their studio lot employees. And I got a phone call from the casting director, and she said to me, "Saw your website, super interested, send us a video answering 20 questions, and we'll let you know within 2 weeks if you make it to the next round." They called me back the next day and said, "You're in the next round." And it continued to go like that. From the time of that phone call, I had my actual tape day on the Sony lot only like 3 weeks later.
Oh my
so
gosh.
everything was like Godspeed. And so there I was in my little apron on Shark Tank. And actually what was funny was I got to meet a number of entrepreneurs right before going on. And so I said to one whose tape day was before mine, I said, "Can you tell me what happens in the tank and how I should prepare?" And he said to me, "Sure, no problem." So he says, "You have 3 little kids." He goes, "Hold your baby while she's screaming at you. Have your other kids tantruming while your husband's asking you financial questions. If you can handle that, you'll be fine in the tank." So with that preparation, there's nothing like being like a fierce mother in the world and a vegan mom. And so with that behind me, it was honestly easy dealing with those sharks.
Oh my gosh,
I gotta
love
tell
this.
you, I felt like I had like just like the spirit was with me, and it went smoothly. It went smoother than I could have ever imagined. I thought of it like I was preparing for the biggest final exam of my life, because you go from like your big dramatic performance, which is your pitch, then they're asking you financial questions, you're in finance class, then you're giving a history lesson, your history of your family and your business and all this. And anyway, I came out. Here's what's so cool. I was asking for $100,000 for 10% of the business, and if you know how Shark Tank works, typically that winds up being 20 or 30 or 40% for that same amount of money. So in my mind, I was willing to give up 30% for that $100,000.
Which you maybe even would have taken 30,000.
I was gonna take $100,000 for losing 30% of the business.
Okay.
But what wound up happening was my first offer was from Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, 20% for $100,000. So in my mind, I was thinking, I just won this entire show. And then the next offer, Marc Cuban goes, "I'm gonna make this real easy. I just went vegetarian," he says.
Yes, he's awesome.
He also disclosed to me, it didn't make it on the show, but he said it in the experience there. He said that his family also came from Romania, where mine came, and worked in the Lower East Side deli scene. So he knows about deli, and he knows about becoming more and more plant-based. And so he said, "I'm going to make it real easy." He goes, "I'm also going to take 20%, but I'm going to give you $250,000.
Oh,
So
it's the best.
game over.
It is game over. So there are a couple things here to me that are key about what you're saying. You said it in the last segment. I personally am not religious, but I do want to say, you mentioned you almost felt that it was a holy work.
Yeah.
And I think when you feel that passionate about what you're doing, and you really feel that there's a mission higher than the money,
Totally.
be it religious for you or not religious or just inspirational, whatever that is, I really feel that you cannot go wrong.
Totally.
And also when you're starting and you're sort of throwing, I'm a Sicilian, so I'll say pasta at the wall, you kind of have nothing to lose. So that no stone unturned energy, I think people can feel it and they want to riff off it, and it's really wonderful. So and then finally I'll just say, you're Jewish, I'm Sicilian, and I love you're succeeding because of the way you speak. You like can't have a sentence without speaking with your hands, so I know what that's all about. Oh gosh. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about the environmental footprint. Do you know any studies about how your product compares to a regular corned beef?
Environmentally, I mean, I know a lot of the, the stats about not only in terms of emissions, but also how we're, of course, raping and pillaging the forest in order to grow seed, which could otherwise feed starving people. We're feeding our cows. I mean, just how backwards and messed up all of this is. I know some of that.
Okay, so I'll just chime in there a little bit. So
Please.
What she's saying there is we cut down all these trees, which suck out carbon monoxide, and that would be great if we kept those trees because we kind of need them to do that for us. That would be helpful. But we don't. We cut them down, and then we plant all of this soy, corn, and wheat. And do we feed this corn and wheat to people? No, we feed it to animals, and then we have to feed them a lot more because we have to wait. It takes 9 months, 6 months, a year and a half. So instead of feeding that to people, we feed it to animals, and in the process, we're giving them land and water. So it is an environmentally bad business equation, basically. So I'll just give some stats that we have for burgers, and probably soon you'll be having them for deli meats. So an independent study from the University of Michigan says that a Beyond Meat burger is 99% less water, 93% less land, 90% less greenhouse gas emissions, and 40% less energy, such as electricity. So when you look at that sort of savings from a resource standpoint, and then of course that always boils down to a business standpoint, it's undeniable, I think, the move of the world towards plant-based food and plant-based eating. So it is very, very exciting. Well, okay, so now let's move maybe to the nutritional footprint.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people you've been seeing in the news lately, like, oh, yes, but it's processed, so, is it good for you? I have a take on that for sure, but I want to give you a crack at it.
Well, our product, because it was made initially from my little home kitchen with ingredients from Ralph's, it's all homegrown, wholesome ingredients. Our label is proudly made with all pronounceable ingredients. So unlike the Beyond Burger, which I love and live off of, I have little kids and I want them to feel like they're good Americans and they're eating their burgers. We eat plenty of Beyond Burgers, but unlike those, you don't need a chemistry degree to decode the label. And it's made with local organic beets, chickpeas, tomatoes, a complex spice blend. It's made with an ingredient called vital wheat gluten, otherwise known as high protein wheat. So if you're gluten-free, unfortunately, you can't have it, but for anyone else, it's super high in protein and low in carbs and made with a lot of love.
Yes. Oh, I love that you're getting into this. So we are going to go to break soon. So I'm not going to break down the nutritional ingredients of a regular burger to a Beyond Meat burger, or let's say regular perhaps corned beef to your product, because I want to do that right after the break. But I am going to say, because if you're listening now, I want to give everybody a shout out. Oh, hey ho, a new diner has picked you up. Of course, you're in Whole Foods and you're in some diners and some Hollywood lots in Los Angeles, but Chicago 11 City Diner has picked you up, and they're giving away brunch for 4. All you got to do is you got to tag Mrs. Goldfarb, Unreal Deli, me, Elysabeth Alfano, and 11 City Diner, and then take a screenshot. So tag us on Instagram, and you can win brunch for 4, a whimsical, fun brunch whenever you want it. Your reservation, Rockstar booth. They're so awesome.
They're so cool. It's such a beautiful space, and now they have Unreal Deli.
Yes, and I'm interested if they found you or you found them.
It's funny. They sort of found us. I guess someone made some posting on one of their feeds saying, "Don't carry animals, carry Unreal," and they thought we were out doing all this. And we weren't.
It's so
awesome. That's how they found out. And
11 City Deli, you are with the program. It's
Totally.
Elysabeth Alfano, the only plant-based radio show in the nation. Hold it here. We'll be right back.
Woo.
Oh, it is the Elysabeth Alfano Show, the only plant-based radio show in the nation. I've got with me Wonder Woman of plant-based deli meats, Mrs. Jenny Goldfarb. Okay, I'm going to talk about nutrition just for a second, and then I'm going to ask Jenny a really long question so that I can get to eating her Unreal Deli sandwich that I have in my hands. It's like hard to talk and focus on the sandwich at the same time. Okay, so we left the break talking about the nutritional difference between regular meat and, let's say, a Beyond Burger. So you haven't really done the comparisons yet for corned beef versus plant-based corned beef. But I do want to talk about the differences that we do know for the meat plant-based versions. So according to Dr. Kim Williams, who's the past president of the American College of Cardiology and the current head of cardiology at Rush Medical Center, meat is going to have several things that are bad for you. It's going to have cholesterol. That's not going to be in the Beyond Burger or plant-based corned beef by Mrs. Goldfarb. It's going to have TMAO, which is trimethylene N oxide, which is something that animal meat has. That's not going to be in the plant-based version. It's going to have animal heme, which is something that is bad for humans. Humans just have a hard time digesting it. You're not going to have that either. And it's not going to have antibiotics, and it's not going to have hormones. So even if something like a Beyond Burger does have the same amount of fat and the same amount of salt, you are much better ahead. You know, it's not like you want to have it every day, but you are much better ahead. Now, something like with Mrs. Goldfarb, it's even more whole food plant-based than a Beyond Burger. So from your website, I'm seeing things like beets, chickpeas, tomatoes, a complex blend of spices. So
that's right. Yeah, it's very low in fat, 1.5 grams per 2 ounces, 100 calories per 2 ounces, 14 grams of protein in that amount. The only number that's somewhat comparable to corned beef, but still less, is the sodium, because it is kind of by nature a bit of a salty meat. But
let's see about salty meats, people. I'm gonna dive in. Here I go.
Okay.
Oh God! And you made me like a real Reuben.
I made you a
real
real
Reuben.
Oh
my
my
gosh! Oh, it's awesome. And it's a vegan Reuben, by the way.
Of course, it's a vegan Reuben. We don't mess around. This is a slightly toasted marble rye bread, thinly sliced unreal corned beef, sauerkraut, vegan Russian dressing, and some Violife melted cheese on there. A little bit of cheese.
I have to wave my unreal flag. Oh my gosh!
Throw in the flag.
And these are I'm sailing the flag.
Yay!
You can't tell the difference.
I know.
So delicious.
That's what we found. There's a 2-minute video on our website, unrealdeli.com, where I'm giving it around to people on the street, and everyone, we fooled like 100% of the people we gave it to.
You know, I think it's cool that it's at 11 City Diner and it's in Whole Foods on the West Coast or across the nation.
Right now we're in 58 stores in like the Southern California, Arizona region.
Okay, and you're going to delis across the nation.
We
You're
are.
kind of working your way across the states. But I think it's cool that individuals can also buy this from your website, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We sell retail boxes right on our website, unrealdeli.com. We're also in 16 Quiznos stores in Denver, Colorado, and it looks like we may be going nationwide with them. There are some other large chains about to take us on. I can't say names yet, but as of this Tuesday, we're also going to be in Mendocino Farms.
Oh my gosh.
Which is going to make an amazing sandwich.
Did I tell you, Wonder Woman of plant-based deli meats? I told you, right? I told you. Okay, well, let me ask you, because it sounds like it's just been one success after the other. Have there been any pitfalls or advice that you would give to people about, like, hey, when this happens, do this?
Yeah, so just knowing that failure is going to happen. You're going to have to fall and get back up. In fact, it's Jewish teaching, like, what makes a righteous person? They ask in the Talmud, and they say someone who falls and gets back up 7 times. Okay?
Oh, 7.
7 is the number.
Good. What
Twice.
if it's 9
right?
or 11?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
7 plus. You have to keep falling and keep getting back up. So that's sort of just part of it. And there's a dance with production and distribution, and I mean there's so many pieces to this puzzle that are now churning. For the longest time, it was I would take a drive, I would bake it, I would drive it around town, and now it's like, thankfully, yes, someone else makes it for me, but I have to be on top of 1,000 things about that. And then now we're going to actually have 2 facilities, because we're going to have a kosher facility and a regular facility, and so many different pieces to this puzzle. So I just think knowing that failure is inevitable is a great way to go about, anything really, but certainly a new endeavor, a business endeavor.
And I do want to underscore that she does this with 3 children, and one of them is a newborn. So anyone can do it. Honestly, if a mother, because your husband works as well, it's not like your husband is managing this business for you.
That's correct.
You are doing it yourself with 3 children.
Yeah. So every day at like 2 p.m., I pound my fists against the table because I have to go pick up my big ones from school, but then I get back a couple hours at the end of the day. So yeah, 9 to 2 is really my main part of the day. I have a babysitter for my baby, but it's a big juggling act, I'm not going to lie.
Oh my words. And this is all possible really because you took on investors with Shark Tank. That you can scale and grow and have 2 kitchens, a kosher and a non-kosher. Is that right?
Actually, no. When it comes to having a co-packer, so we haven't opened these kitchens. I'm really trying not to touch this Marc Cuban money, to be honest with you. So when it comes to having a co-packer, what's amazing is that you pay them per unit. So I don't pay anything for rent or for ovens or for any of that. I just pay a little bit of a premium to get it made.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
And I guess there is some rationale to not growing too quickly in terms of SKUs. I know you want distribution across the United States, but you're keeping it really simple. You've got one recipe, one product.
Yeah, so right now we sell the unsliced and the sliced versions because our delis like to slice it themselves. A lot of our general restaurants want it already sliced, but our next SKU, I mentioned hot dogs, but I'm kind of jumping ahead to the end of the year or next year, but our more immediate SKU is going to be a ground kind of like a taco meat crumble is coming next. So,
well, let me tell you, I think something that would be great would be turkey. And if you ever want to go that way, I do a lot of recipe development for companies. And if you ever just want to like beat ideas around, because I'm always cooking for meat eaters as well. That's really the ultimate challenge, you know, you're trying to make it happen. So I think we need a plant-based turkey.
Yeah.
So, and I made one for Thanksgiving. It was super good.
Good
so,
on you.
I don't know, like a sliced turkey is what I'm waiting for, because that's what I used to eat before I went vegan. So it's fun to always have that in my freezer.
I get it.
But you also mentioned kids. How has it been raising your kids vegan?
You know, it's a challenge because we don't, you know, we live on Earth and most of the world has not gotten the memos that we have gotten. And so their school, for instance, has, you know, a pizza day once a week. And so my husband, it was like a bit of contention because he was saying to me, I want them to feel like normal kids, like they can get the pizza. I said, I know, I want them to feel like normal kids too, but I went to the school and I said, guys, can we bring in a vegan pizza? I said, I'll buy the rest of the pie. I said, can we just bring it in? And I didn't even have to buy the rest of the pie. They're being ordered and other kids are getting them too. So little by little, but yeah, there are still struggles in all of it because we go to birthday parties and things, but we try our best.
Yes, I love that you say that. Mayim Bialik, who is on The Big Bang Theory, she's also a vegan mom. Alicia Silverstone's a vegan mom. But I love what Mayim says about this. She says that, you know, it's not that her kids aren't normal. It's that her kids are understanding that there's a cost to hurting others. And she wants them to grow up knowing that their decisions matter and their purchasing power matters and their choices matter and that they are creative, powerful, influential beings. Absolutely. And what they do matters.
My kids are now 7 and 5 are my big kids and they don't yet have phones or they're not on Google yet, but I say to them, when you're a little older, you're going to learn why mommy, you know, and makes us do all this craziness. So
do they find it crazy or do they find it like, oh, well, what the heck? Because you still can do like mac and cheese and peanut butter.
But when you go out, things get compromised. So they do think mommy's, you know, enforcing a little bit of craziness on them. But I've said little snippets like we don't want to hurt animals. And even like my older daughter says to me, you know, it's scary to put an animal in your body. I said, it's scary.
It is scary.
How do we not all know that? I actually told them a year ago on Halloween, I said to them, I'm going to tell you the spookiest Halloween story. And they said, what? And I said to them, everyone you know's shoes and purses are made of dead animals. Yeah, I told them that because I want them to know how crazy this world is, you know?
Yes.
And how we're doing something important. And it has to be, you know, different right now, but it's not going to be forever.
Yes, and that is the generation that leads. I mean, you're leading, don't get me wrong, Mrs. Goldfarb. But, you know, kids are the next generation. So, and actually, I think by the time your kids get real purchasing power, they're going to be like already so down with the program because millennials are really leading this fight. I love millennials. There's a study from Nestle, who owns Sweet Earth, which is a plant-based burger, that says 63% of millennials understand that their food choices affect the environment. 44% of them understand and act accordingly that their food choices affect animals. So I think, you know, it's the older generations that are the tricky part, but I think, you know, millennials, I do think that they got the message. So I think by the time your kids get around to it, it's going to be like, of course, this is what we do. And can you believe that those generations before us, they ate animals?
Right. Actually, I've heard many say that we're going to look at it like we look at slavery today. That like, how could we have ever been behind this or somehow okayed that? In fact, I love this Paul McCartney line where he says, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian.
Absolutely.
But YouTube has glass walls.
Yes.
And we're watching. The millennials are watching.
Yes.
And Elysabeth Alfano is watching, thank God.
Yes. Yes, I think that that's right. Because, you know, this is not a red or blue issue.
Yeah.
I mean, red state or blue state issue. This really... Everybody loves animals except for the rare, odd,
no, everybody
unhealthy
does. Like
individual.
psychologically,
Yes.
I think we
everybody loves animals. Yes, because we all grew up as kids loving animals. So nobody wants to hurt animals. And when given the opportunity, this stat comes from Josh Falk of the Humane Society of the United States. When given the opportunity, if legislation to help animals can make it to the ballot, everybody, left or right, will vote for it. It always passes, even if that means a little bit more money coming from people's pockets. They'll do it anyway. So I think that's very inspirational to think like, oh my God, the one thing that Republicans and Democrats can agree on. There's like only one, and this is it. Okay, so a couple really important questions here.
Let's go.
What are we always going to find in your fridge?
So I was saying over the commercial break to some of our other listeners is that I drink this, I make my own homemade almond milk no matter how busy things get, and I make my own homemade butter all the time. And that's always living in my fridge. But with my homemade almond milk, I will then do another run in the blender with dates, maca powder, cocoa powder, and just a hint of cinnamon and sea salt. And that makes the most divine chocolate milk on the planet. And I'll mix that with a little espresso in the morning, and I can mix it with vodka at a party, and I can freeze it into popsicles for the children. And there are a lot of fun ways to play with that.
So you can appeal to everybody. We got kids with like chocolate milk. We've got adults with vodka. I mean, where can you go wrong?
Exactly.
That sounds delicious. Okay, so I'm coming back. You're going to have to make that for me as well.
All
after
right.
the show, yeah. Little vodka after the show. Everybody.
Right.
Hey, vodka's vegan, folks. Okay, what is your favorite snack? And it can be healthy or it can be kind of a chunky snack.
Don't even. I mean, like an amazing vegan nacho pile I could never turn down the entire plate of, certainly.
Yeah, me too. When I sit down for one of those, it's not like one chip. And it always kills me that some people on the planet can actually do one chip.
I don't like those humans.
You know, that ain't me. Sorry. I'm Sicilian. If I sit down for that thing, I'm eating the entire thing, which is why I can't really start. What is your go-to meal? You've had kids, you've been at the office. Oh my God, you walk through the door. What's the one thing you can make super fast? It's always good.
Super fast, always good. I mean, to be totally honest, there's so much takeout in my home these days. It's all vegan takeout, but there's so much of it. And we have a place right here called Garden Walk that we get from like probably twice a week. It's amazing. And like 20-year-old, homegrown, no frills. We just love this place. So that's like our go-to. But my own go-to for putting it together myself, probably a little tofu in the oven and I don't know, a little rice and just throwing together a couple of veggies is a mock kind of a dinner.
Yes, so I do something kind of similar. And of course, you can always go to my website, ElysabethAlfano.com, for lots of super fast recipes. But I basically make the garbage bowl.
Yeah.
So whatever's left over, hanging out in the fridge, sweet potatoes, avocados, I put it all in, quinoa, brown rice. I just mix it up, and it's always delicious. That's the thing is, it's never fail. Okay, everybody, keep it locked. It's the Elysabeth Alfano Show on WCGO. We'll be right back.
Woo!
Oh, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the Elysabeth Alfano Show, the only plant-based radio show in the nation right here on WCGO. During the break, I have to say I was eating my Unreal Deli sandwich of plant-based corned beef because Mrs. Goldfarb, the queen of plant-based deli meats, I'll say, is in the house. I want to thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, so we've been having such a fun conversation. Now I'm going to get a little philosophical. So again, you have 3 children and you're running a startup business. I don't think I can imagine anything more chaotic. I'm wondering if there's a phrase that you live by or something that you tell yourself. So if your day isn't going as you expected, what do you say to yourself to just kind of keep the faith?
I mean, my general belief is that this life, we're here to work really hard. We're not here for retirement or to take a nap or to go to a spa. Those things are wonderful. They should happen in their time. But the general purpose of life on earth is to get a lot of work done and to be at it and to go from one thing to the next. So when there isn't a down moment and when things aren't going as, cheerfully as I expect, I just assume that's how things are.
I love that. So you have no expectation that you're supposed to be happy all the time or perfect all the time or without glitches, but that life is this crazy, chaotic mess, and that's the gig.
That's definitely the gig, although I do work really hard at happiness and trying to have a cheerful disposition and be excited about life in a positive way. But I understand. So oftentimes the default, what can go wrong will go wrong, and I'm kind of hip to that.
Yes. I'll say for myself, I find one of the keys to happiness really is feeling that I am of value to society. And I think that's why I do so much work in this space, because there's something very rewarding and valuable to feeling that sense of purpose. And of course you have children and there's no greater sense of purpose, but in addition you feel like, oh gosh, and I can help beyond these wonderful children. So it's very inspirational. I just wrote an article for Veg World magazine, shout out to them, about my top 10 predictions for 2020. And one of them was going to be plant-based delis. So when I was traveling in New Zealand and Australia, plant-based delis everywhere. There's a new plant-based deli in Chicago that just popped up. There are a couple plant-based delis, I think, in Los Angeles, and I'm sure in other places around the country. What are your predictions for 2020 and beyond?
Well, speaking of plant-based delis, getting to see how even the old school delis who haven't changed their menus since the 19th century are now taking on products like mine and getting hip to it. So you don't have to necessarily open up a new brick and mortar, but just to sort of infiltrate those that are already there. In terms of predictions, I generally just see it as like a really big awakening that's taking place, that it's 2020, that there's like a new year, people are wanting to, have more, consciousness around their choices, and, between the awards shows, between videos coming out that are more powerful, between undercover investigations, I just think that like these truths are like coming to the surface quicker, higher, faster than ever before, and people are getting the memo, and they're also getting the memo how doable and delicious it can be to go this way.
So I will add to that, because I would agree there is this awakening going on. People are getting hip to the program. But in the event that they're not, business is going to push them that way, because business cannot afford the bad business equation of giving all this food to animals and then, I don't want to say wasting it on animals, but you could be giving it to people, and you could be making a faster return in terms of your resources and your dollars. And for those people who maybe don't care about the stuff we're talking about, I do know that they care about dollars. Yes. So when in doubt, I think that economic push, which is why every one of us is so powerful, because we do vote with our dollars. Right. Our purchasing power matters, and people listen when our dollars are aligned with our values. I do think we'll see a shift in the world. So it's sort of coming from all areas. Yeah,
and it seems like it's coming, and hopefully with, new administrations, it will actually be enacted, because right now there are, when I get up to bat and, a company loves my product and they say, well, how much is it? And I quote them what I think is a modest amount per pound. They'll say to me, well, I pay even less, for this meat product. And for the longest time I was scratching my head. How could it be? You have a baby cow, you raise it all these years, you feed it 1 million meals, and that's still cheaper than my beets and my chickpeas? How could it be? And it's because of these tremendous government subsidies. So things are really backwards, but hopefully there's some light at the end.
Okay, so I do want to tell everyone that we are going to have a show just on that specifically. Please. What she's saying is, here we live in America, but it is not free competition. There are enormous subsidies, your tax dollars, whether you like it or not, going to things that in fact destroy your planet and your own health. So we've talked a lot about taste and everything, but if your doctor's telling you to cut out some meat, this is your new best friend. So when you think that your dollars are going to support not true competition, to me that's very disappointing. And again, we're going to vote with our dollars. So but there's a whole show dedicated to that. It's coming for sure. So then I do want to ask you, this is one of my very favorite questions that I love to ask every show. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
I definitely wish that I knew about what happens with our precious sweetheart animals, and had changed my game a decade earlier, certainly. But I also believe that, we learn things when we're supposed to learn them, and, we maybe would not have been at that maturity level at that point. In fact, a decade ago, I hadn't yet met my husband. And when I met my husband, I certainly wasn't vegan, and he obviously wasn't either. And so I believe that if I had been vegan, maybe, that would have put a barrier up for us. So maybe I wasn't ready to learn that at that point. So, I'd like to say that I would have preferred all this enlightenment at that time, but I believe that, we're guided in this world in a certain way. And so 10 years ago, certain information may have actually been toxic that's now so fruitful for me.
I love that you continue to return to a spiritual connection for you, which is so moving. I'll say from a practical standpoint for me, and I do want to advocate this for everyone else, what I wish I knew 10 years ago is that I wish I knew how much I really had to stand up for my voice and my interests. And I do want to be healthy. And it's just recently, I'll say within the last 5 years, that I've realized, USDA recommendations, they don't have me in mind. They have industry in mind. Sure. And I didn't realize that before, that really we must advocate for ourselves. Yeah. If you want to get your health in shape, you really need to do the research. It's great to go to a doctor, that's wonderful, but they don't get that much nutrition in medical school. They don't take one nutrition class in medical school. Go to a dietitian. Just really educate yourself. Yeah. For your own health and happiness, you must advocate for yourself, and you have the power to do it. So I wish I had really sort of taken that in 10 years ago.
I would even skip the nutritionist, eat plant-based for a week and see how you feel.
And see how you feel. Because your body, oh my gosh, the best gift on the planet, your body is there to help you out. So I do think we have the tools. We have the tools right at our fingertips. You don't have to stand on a corner and with a picket sign. You can just right there spend your dollars that align with your vision for yourself in terms of your health and your values, and you will see a change. Okay, Jenny Goldfarb, it's been wonderful to have you on the show.
Wonderful.
Where can we get plant-based corned beef?
So Unreal Deli Meat is available on our website, unrealdeli.com, but it will increasingly be available in all sorts of outlets across the country, both, super affordably in places like Quiznos and a higher end places like some finer delis. And so keep looking for us. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and we hope to be in your hometown very imminently.
It's so awesome, everybody. You have your marching orders. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. This is the Elysabeth Alfano Show, the only plant-based radio show in the nation. Yay. Check me out always on WCGO Radio, 1590 AM, 95.9 FM, and always on Alexa and WGORadio.com. You can check out my website at ElysabethAlfano.com. And more than anything, I will see you every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central. Thanks for being with me. Together, we're taking back our health and the health of the planet.